The coffee shop smelled like burnt vanilla and broken promises. Ryan Matthews sat alone at the corner table, his 5-year-old daughter Emma coloring beside him, when he saw her, his ex-wife Claire, 7 months pregnant, struggling through the door with grocery bags threatening to tear at the seams. His heart stopped. Then it shattered all over again. The divorce had been finalized 7 months ago to the day. 7 months since she'd told him she couldn't do this anymore, couldn't be married to a man who worked 70-hour weeks and forgot anniversaries. 7 months since he'd signed the papers with trembling hands, believing he'd failed at the one thing that mattered most. And now here she was, carrying another man's child, proof that life had moved on without him. "Daddy, that's Mommy." Emma's crayon froze mid-stroke, her eyes wide with the innocent hope that only children possess, the belief that broken things can be fixed with enough love. Ryan's instinct was to look away, to grab Emma's hand and slip out the back door. Pride, that venomous serpent, coiled tight in his chest. Let her struggle. Let her new life be as hard as his had been these past months, sleeping on a mattress in a one-bedroom apartment, learning to braid Emma's hair from YouTube videos, crying into his steering wheel during lunch breaks. But then Claire shifted the bags, wincing, one hand moving protectively to her swollen belly. The bags slipped further. She was alone. Completely alone. "Stay here, sweetheart," Ryan heard himself say, his voice not quite his own. He crossed the coffee shop in 8 steps that felt like 8 miles. Claire's eyes met his, and the kaleidoscope of emotions that passed between them could have filled volumes: regret, embarrassment, longing, fear, and something else, something raw and unhealed. Ryan. His name on her lips still undid him. "Let me help." He reached for the bags before she could protest. They were heavier than they looked, filled with the mundane necessities of life: milk, bread, prenatal vitamins in the transparent pharmacy bag that screamed her new reality. "You don't have to. I know I don't have to." The words came out sharper than he intended. He softened his voice. "Please, Claire, just let me help." She nodded, exhausted in a way that went beyond physical tiredness. He walked her to her car, not the Honda they'd bought together, but an older sedan that had seen better decades. She'd taken nothing in the divorce except her clothes and books. He'd insisted she take more, but her pride had been as stubborn as his. "Thank you," she whispered as he loaded the bags into her trunk. "You didn't have to do that. Especially after everything." Ryan turned to face her fully. The afternoon sun caught the strands of gray in her hair that hadn't been there a year ago. "Who's the father?" The question escaped before he could cage it. Claire's face crumbled, not with shame, but with something far more devastating: grief. "There is no father, Ryan." "Not really." His mind raced, confused. "But you're pregnant." "Yes." She laughed, a hollow sound that echoed with resignation. "Remember Drive, Stevens, from the fertility clinic? Before we gave up trying." The memory hit him like a physical blow. 3 years of negative pregnancy tests. The hope that had curdled into resentment. The appointments he'd missed because of work. The way they'd stopped touching, stopped trying, stopped being anything other than roommates managing a shared disappointment. "I had one embryo left," Claire continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "From when we were still us. I couldn't let it go. I know that sounds crazy, but I couldn't. So I used it. 3 months after the divorce was final. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to feel obligated, and I didn't want to give you another reason to hate me." The world tilted sideways. Ryan gripped the car door to steady himself. That's our baby, yes." Tears tracked down Claire's cheeks. "I'm so sorry. I know I had no right to make that decision without you. I know I've complicated everything even more. But Ryan, I spent 3 years begging you to be present, to be there, to care about building a family as much as you cared about building your career. I couldn't beg anymore. And I couldn't let go of the last piece of what we created together when we still loved each other." 7 months. His mind calculated frantically. The timeline aligned. 3 months after the divorce, 4 months pregnant now would be, she was 7 months along. This was the child they'd prayed for, the child that had eluded them when they were together, now arriving when they were broken beyond repair. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice cracked. "Because you chose work over us 1,000 times. Because I was tired of being the only one fighting. Because I didn't want our child to grow up with a father who was there in body but absent in spirit." She wiped her eyes roughly. And because I was terrified you'd try to come back out of obligation, not love. This baby deserves more than obligation. The truth of her words landed like stones in water, rippling outward to touch every excuse he'd made, every missed dinner, every time he'd promised, next time, and meant it before the promises evaporated in the urgency of the next deal, the next client, the next rung on a ladder leading nowhere that mattered. Daddy. Emma's voice called from the coffee shop entrance. You forgot me. Claire's hand flew to her mouth. Emma. Oh God, I didn't know she was. I have her every other weekend now. Ryan picked up his daughter, whose eyes were locked on Claire's belly with the suspicious fascination of children who understand more than adults give them credit for. Mommy, you have a baby in there. Emma pointed with the blunt honesty of 5-year-olds everywhere. Claire's composure finally broke. She nodded, unable to speak. Is it my baby too? Emma asked, turning to Ryan with those impossibly innocent eyes. Will I be a big sister? The question hung in the air between the three of them, counting the life growing in Claire's womb, and Ryan felt the full weight of his choices pressing down on his shoulders. He could walk away, protect himself, tell himself that Claire had made this decision without him and therefore he bore no responsibility. He could let pride and hurt feelings dictate his response. Or he could do what he should have done 3 years ago. Yes, sweetheart, Ryan said, his eyes never leaving Claire's. You're going to be a big sister. Does that mean Mommy's coming home? Emma's hope was a knife that cut them both. No, baby, Claire said gently, finding her voice. Mommy and Daddy still live in different houses. But that doesn't mean we don't love you. Or that we won't love your baby brother or sister. Ryan set Emma down carefully. Can I call you? Later tonight. We need to talk. Really talk. Claire studied his face, searching for something. Whatever she found there made her nod slowly. Okay. Yes. We need to talk. As Ryan drove Emma home that evening, his daughter chattering excitedly about baby names and nursery colors, his mind replayed the crossroads he'd just stood at. He'd helped Claire not because he was obligated to, not because the baby was biologically his, but because it was the right thing to do. Because kindness didn't require a relationship status or a legal contract. Because somewhere in the wreckage of their marriage, there had been love, and love, real love, doesn't completely die. It transforms. That night, after Emma fell asleep, Ryan made 2 decisions. First, he called his boss and asked to move to part-time consulting. The career that had cost him his marriage would not cost him his children, either of them. Second, he called Claire. I don't know if we can fix this, he said honestly. I don't even know if we should try. But I know that child deserves a father who shows up. Not because he has to, but because he wants to. I'm sorry it took losing you to learn what should have mattered all along. Claire was quiet for a long moment. I'm not asking you to come back, Ryan. I know. But I'm asking if we can try to be better co-parents than we were spouses. I'm asking if I can be there. At appointments. When the baby comes. For Emma. For all of us. Why? Her voice was small, uncertain. Because 7 months ago, I made the mistake of thinking that signing papers ended our family. But seeing you today, I realized family isn't about addresses or last names. It's about showing up for the people who need you. And whether you believe it or not, I need this chance to be the man I should have been. 3 months later, Ryan held his son for the first time in a hospital delivery room, with Emma perched on the edge of Claire's bed, and he understood what he'd been too blind to see before. Love wasn't about grand gestures or perfect timing. It was about choosing someone, again and again, even when, especially when, it wasn't easy or convenient. He and Claire would never remarry. That ship had sailed into waters too deep to navigate back from. But they became something better than spouses, partners in raising 2 children who would grow up knowing that love, in all its imperfect forms, was about showing up. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about happy endings. They're about people choosing humanity over hurt, kindness over pride, and family over the fragments of what used to be. Ryan had thought that one move, helping Claire with her groceries, would complicate his life. Instead, it had given him something worth living for, the chance to turn ruin into redemption, one small choice at a time.